What is up, car addicts? In this video I'm going to be giving a guide for this week's HSW time trial for next gen consoles only, also this week's normal time trial, RC Bandito time trial, and the premium race for this week, totaling over $550,000. Remember, the time trials can only be completed once during the event week period for the full payout. The premium race, however, can be completed in a limited amount of times with a 48-minute cooldown between each win. Also keep in mind that rocket-powered / flying vehicles cannot be used in time trials. So starting off with the HSW time trial, which is specific Bluffs. Again, remember that you can only use an HSW upgraded vehicle for these time trials, and the best one is obviously the Hakuchu Drag with the HSW upgrade, which is insanely fast. However, I wanted to pick something a little different, and since the HSW upgrade for the Brioso RA released yesterday for GTA Plus members early, I decided to give it a shot in that car. Now in terms of route, the one the GPS shows isn't really that great of a route at all, so you're going to want to take the route I use instead, which is a lot quicker. Also, something that I wanted to talk about, a lot of you pointed out in last week's video that the part time for this time trial does change depending on what vehicle you're using. For example, in the Hakuchu Drag, the part time would be about 3 minutes and 30 seconds for this particular time trial, and if you're in the Brioso, it will actually change to 3 minutes and 59 seconds, giving you more time because it knows you're using a slower vehicle. So very interesting there. I actually didn't know that, so thank you guys for telling me that in the comments. But either way, you will always have at least 20 seconds left over, doesn't matter what car you're using, on your specific run, with a couple mistakes here and there. So you always have plenty of time to beat these time trials in literally any HSW vehicle. Moving on to the normal time trial this week, which is coast to coast, I highly recommend either the Pariah, Itali GTO, or to Vest 8 for this time trial. And obviously, if you're on next gen, I recommend using the HSW Hakushu Drag. In terms of route, the first one the game gives you is pretty awful when you map it. Do not take that route. If you move forward a bit towards the road, the GPS route will actually change to a highway route, and that's the one you want to take. Now, usually for these time trials, I challenge myself by picking either the prize right challenge car or the casino podium car of a corresponding event week on these time trials. And for this event week, we have the Zentorno as the prize right car and the Euros as the casino podium car. Now, the Euros definitely has no chance of beating this time trial, especially with that tuner's nerf that it has. However, the Zentorno does, so that's the one I used for this time trial. Moving on to this week's RC Bandito time trial, which is Cypress Flats. As always, you need to own an RC Bandito in order to participate in these. As usual, these RC time trials are always tricky and require a lot of precise steering and throttle inputs, and this one in particular has quite a few curbs and some cars to avoid as well. When you're going on those curbs, make sure to let off the throttle beforehand so you can avoid losing control of your Bandito. Most of the time, if you go full throttle on those curbs and sidewalks, the Bandito will go on two wheels and flip and all that. If you want it to go over smoothly, make sure to let off the throttle beforehand. And for all the other areas, I recommend only pressing the throttle when your Bandito is going in a straight line, and when you're turning, don't be on the throttle at all. You will see that it makes the Bandito a lot easier to drive. And of course, make sure to use your brakes in the tighter areas.
Get it! 'Cause I wouldn't. 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 '
And lastly, we have this week's premium race, which is Down the Drain. This one is restricted to the muscle cars class. I highly recommend either the Vapid Click or the Buffalo STX for this race. And if you're on next gen, I recommend using the HSW Arbiter GT, which is extremely quick in this particular race since it's mainly based on top speed. For reference, my best lap times in the Vapid Click and the Buffalo STX were around a 105 lap time, and the Arbiter is doing it in around 102. So that's a big difference when it comes to lap time. 3 seconds is a lot. However, picking this car is a huge risk. It likes to steer on its own depending on what bump you hit, especially if you're trying to bump boost off the walls. It likes to steer all over the place, either away from the wall or towards it. It's just random, and you kind of have to try to predict which way it's pulling you so that you can counter steer it as you're getting off the bump. It's a bit complicated, but once you get used to it, it's not terrible, but it's definitely not easy to drive. It's a little predictable, but not much. I personally don't like it at all, but it is the fastest one for this particular race in terms of the muscle car class, so it is what it is. If you want to win and other people are using it, you're going to have to use it too. In general, this race is pretty easy, but where most people mess up is the first jump, which you need to tap the brakes beforehand depending on how fast you're going, and angle your car slightly to the left of the jump. If you do that, you'll be fine. And the rest of the race is pretty easy, just 2 hairpin corners on either end that you take very slow for the most part. Other than that, it's a pretty easy race. And that's it, guys. The HSW time trial is pretty easy because there's a lot of extra time, especially if you use the HSW Hakuchu drag. The normal time trial is easy as well if you use a fast car. The RC time trial is pretty tricky, but as usual, just take it slow, use your brakes a lot, and you should be fine. And this week's premium race is pretty easy as well, depending on what car you're using. Again, remember guys, you can earn over $550,000 between the 4 this week, and setting yourself a goal to beat them is always a lot of fun in my personal opinion. Let me know which one you found most difficult and what vehicles you used down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.